Joys of engineering yourself and playing guitar and singing at the same time.
When are you guys doing gigs again?
The 30th.
This month?
Yeah.
Okay, it's coming up.
End of the month.
Cool. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name's Mark. I'm the owner here at Premier Music. This is Tom Harkenrider, Tom, and Tyler. Also teach some of our blues performance classes. I end up teaching more of the rock and roll stuff. Martin is our favorite bass player to play with, so we just said we'd bring him along. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna play a tune or two just to get rolling, and then we're gonna start talking a little bit about where you guys are at as players. This is kind of a different group than we've had in the past, so we're gonna do a little bit of an assessment before I just start banging you guys over the head with this is the most basic stuff ever. So, and then we'll kind of get into it. So let's do Checking Up on My Baby. Four chord.
I'm checking up on my baby, picking up what she's putting down. I'm checking up on my baby, picking up what she's putting down. So many nights and days I'm out of town. Go for time. Now I will not call, I will not write. Now I will not call, I will not write. Take the last train home, come home that same night.
Okay, well, Sonny Boy Williamson. Now, let me ask you guys, how many of you guys have played in a group before? Gone to a blues jam, played in a band? Go ahead and raise some hands. Okay. Now, I spoke to you. I know you're saying you're getting back into things. How about you guys? I know Ramon too. Where would you put your skill level?
Well, I played in a band when I was a kid, growing up. Didn't touch an electric guitar for, probably 40-some years. I did play some acoustic,
Mm-hmm.
but I've just now picked up electric to come back to play some blues. So I've been to 3 or 4 of the blues, get-togethers
Mm-hmm.
and things, but I haven't played with any of them yet.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you're getting back on the horse, pretty much. Yeah.
Maybe we'll see.
Maybe. Cool. All right. A couple of you guys are students here already. You guys all know what a 12-bar blues chord progression is. That's kind of the first question. Yeah. Now here's one of the things, kind of the aesthetic that we like to teach is we tend to teach styles more than songs. The average blues gig for what we do ends up being more, less rehearsal, more, this is a, grinder in G, this is an 8-bar blues. We communicate and we make music out of it. You play more in the moment. You say that's a fair assessment? A lot of times we get students where they get really obsessed with learning songs and they don't really learn the music. Blues it's a style. There's a lot of things that make up the style of music. And when you go to a blues jam, one of the hardest things is if somebody knows only like a small group of songs that are very specific arrangements and they're very inflexible. And even when I go play a gig, like a pickup gig or something like that, the idea is that we all can communicate. This group of guys plays together about 3 times a year right now. I played with these 2 guys a couple weeks ago, and we played with Tom a couple months ago, and then before that it had been half a year or 3 quarters, and we still communicate pretty well. The idea is that if you understand your instrument, you understand the style of music and the tools to make the music, it's going to be real easy to make music with other people, especially people that you don't rehearse with on a regular basis. So as far as a beginning grab bag of tools, what would you say is real important?
As far as styles goes,
Yeah, say we're going to a blues jam. What are the things that, at a minimum, you feel these guys should have at their command?
Well, understanding the form, is key. First off, solid rhythm playing is probably 85% of what we're looking for. Everybody, we're all guitar players, or most of us are. So I mean, we didn't get into guitar to play rhythm. We wanted to play lead guitar and impress people.
You can say it.
Impress chicks.
There you go.
My standing joke I've been using for 3 years. Because that's what I got into, right? How fun to play guitar because I want to get chicks, and I figured out that, well, man, if I play some guitar solos, man, I'm gonna get the chicks. Well, it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
So, but going to a blues jam, I know some people, they get there and you're just waiting for your chance to play, and what's going to be, your viability. Make sure that you're up there and playing, and it's just being a good rhythm player, So having command of chords, and having good time, that'll get you very far. We did a clinic here with Rick Holmstrom, great guitar player, but his first gigs, man, he couldn't play lead at all, and his time with William Clark, he just played rhythm. That was it. My first gigs, I just played rhythm. And of course I was always chomping at the bit to take a guitar solo, right? Because I was playing in front of people, and in those people there was chicks, so I wanted to play guitar solo. But the band leader would never allow that, so patience, time, and be able to play the form. So know how to play a shuffle, and be just a good listener. That's be supportive. That's it.
I think that's one of the biggest things of playing with other people is the listening aspect of it. I tend to play well with Tom in a 2-guitar setting because we both listen to each other and stay out of each other's way. Especially because I sing most of the time when we're playing together. I have no problem finding a real small part or something that's super consistent that doesn't vary, and then Tom can kind of fill in. You know, being a guitar player in a multiple guitar setting means being part of a team. And a lot of guys, like the blues jam thing, to me is, you know, there's a lot of, there's like the pro jams and there's kind of like the amateur jams, or the, you know, like the guys that are just getting rolling, you know, we'll say. And the pro jams generally, to me, tend to be guys that are real experienced in playing in these settings. You know, so they play together well. You know, they may even know each other from work. The more amateur level ones, this may be the guys that are getting up. It's like they're only 15 minutes to play music for the month, and they really want to play. You know, and so and understandably, you know, they play for themselves. But the problem is that you get 5 people on stage playing for themselves, as opposed to playing for the music, and it's a train wreck, and it's loud, and it's there's just too many notes flying around, and you know, you have to kind of step back and kind of find where you are in the team. Now, there's a whole series of things that, as a musician, you know, you should work on your own. You know, you should be able to play in time. You should know your instrument well enough that you can play any of these traditional blues forms, whether it's a 12-bar blues or an 8-bar blues or a minor blues or any of the feels. You should be able to play them in multiple keys. You know, you get up at a jam session, you know, a singer's going to call off a key where they're comfortable, right? And at the end of the day, the listener listens to the singer. They don't listen to the guitar player as much as the rest of us would like to think otherwise. You know, the reality is that you kind of have to serve the person singing the tune too. You know, so you have to be able to move things around. And you know, and Tom does a lot of stuff like the Chicago thing where you use the capo and you can kind of play in the open key. I tend to play more of like a jazzier style where there's a lot of, you know, different chord shapes. But we're both able, you know, and Tom also can do, I'm making it sound like you can only play the capo. But no, but you know, Tom does that Chicago thing really well, whereas I'm not as good at that. But we can play in any key. You know, and that's a real important idea, I think, is don't just play in guitar keys. If you get up and there's a saxophone player, you know, you're in trouble. So, what I like to do is maybe get some folks up, start with like a grinder kind of deal.
Yes, yeah. The you know, the Jimmy Reed, you know, grinder thing, you know, as simple as, you know, sounds like it is. I mean, it's really, I think it's one of the first things, you know, you should be able to do. So, and it's a regional term, so grinder or whatever, lump, doesn't really matter, but it serves everything. You know, anytime there's a shuffle, you can always get away with that. And I think it sounds cool, you know. So yeah, we should get some guys up here, right?
Yeah. Anybody feel comfortable coming up? Who's the first victims? Anyone? You want to play?
Oh man, we'll start picking out the hat. Hey Mark,
Yeah.
you're good, man. Thanks for volunteering, buddy. You want to play my guitar or you? Oh, okay. Yeah, bring it.
Yeah, why don't you play through my deal and play with Tom? And then there you go. Now we're kind of cheating because Mark actually takes a class here, so he knows what we're going to do, but
At least I hope so, because if he doesn't, I'm going to feel really bad. He's in my class.
no pressure. So with these kind of rhythm parts, there's usually a top and a bottom if you're playing with 2 guitar players. So he's going to play that part. And then Tom's going to do more of the top part, you know, and they'll show that, you know, he's got the more simplified thing. So if you're just getting your feet wet, you can do that, be real consistent with it, and then the other guy can do something else, or vice versa. If you're learning more of the top parts, then, you know, you can let the other guy, but don't keep going back and forth between parts.
Yeah. Once you pick your part, stick with your part.
Yeah, and don't be
Stick with your part.
and don't be afraid to ask the other guy, hey, what are you playing? That's like one of that will avoid so many train wrecks, and people just don't ever do that. It's like, I'm doing my thing. And I'm gonna solo for 10 minutes too, and then it's like, oh, all right.
Well, we talk about I got my thing, you know. So then you got 5 people all up there and they're doing their thing, and then it doesn't sound like no thing. So, you ready?
Yeah.
E. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
I'm gonna see if I can remember this tune. A bright lights, a big city, gone to my baby's head. A bright lights, a big city, gone to my baby's head. You wanna listen to the things I said. Okay. So, besides the fact that really wasn't the key that I should have been singing that in, his part's super consistent. When I wasn't singing, Tom was playing stuff that was more interesting and more involved. And when I was singing, he played things that kind of fit in the form. Now, a lot of these older 12-bar blues tunes, you'll have kind of a 3-phrase system. You got 12 bars. There's 4 bars, 4 bars, and 4 bars. If I went bright lights, big city, gone to my baby's head, and then the top part kind of played something that popped out that was interesting, but he didn't play over the top of while I was singing. All right, and then the next 4 bars, I sang the same line basically over where it goes to the 4 chord, and then he would play things that would become interesting in the whole in my line, and then same thing, and then he would also play a turnaround or something along those lines. But it's very complimentary, But this part, Mark's part here, it was like bedrock. It was just real stable, and that's what we want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounded good.
Yeah. Anyone else want to play? Do you guys know what we're doing as far as the guitar part? Have you guys played this kind of thing before? You want to come up? You showed too much life out there, so I'm. Yeah.
Sure, man.
Now, as far as from the drummer's perspective, what do you like to hear guitar players do, and what don't you like to hear them do?
Well,
this could be a whole.
I could have just opened a can of worms. But to me, it's important to hear how the other instruments actually view playing with guitar players, because we generally tend to go, oh, that's the stuff we're playing over, as opposed to they're the other members of the team,
Yeah, there's not a ton, but I think the 2 things that stand out the most is when no one's communicating on stage. I mean, as a drummer, that's just as annoying as any other instrumentalist, but we often cue a lot of the stuff that's going on, and so if nobody's communicating and you're trying to get someone's attention, you're trying to know when the song, I mean, you can't read someone's mind. So a lot of times if I go to a jam or something, and you have a lot of people up front that aren't talking to each other and aren't communicating and giving signals, it just makes it really stressful, because it's like, okay, how are we going to end this behemoth of a blues jam that's been lasting for 15 minutes? And then that goes to the other thing, which is just, guitar players that solo too long at a jam, that can just get really,
Yeah.
what's the right word? But I mean, it's just not good etiquette. So it's usually typically like 2 choruses.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
jams, if you're really embracing the spirit of a jam session, and there's other people that are waiting to get up there, it's like, take 2 choruses of solo and pass it on to the next person, and then, that'll avoid a lot of headaches
I think
for
so.
other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can't say it in 2 choruses.
And just, no count-offs is another thing. If the guitar player, a lot of times I've experienced guitar players, especially if they sing or something, they'll come up and sort of do this thing like, you know this tune? And I'll say, not really, I mean, which is fine. And then they'll go, okay, and then just start it, you know, and it's like no count off, I don't know what the feel is, I don't know what the tempo is, I don't know what they're thinking of, you know. And so it's this kind of like machismo, like, you know, I'm the boss. If you don't know this song, then, you know, screw you, pal. Whereas that's really opposite of what it should be. You know, you should go up there, and if you have a couple songs in mind that you want to play or sing and play, you have to communicate to everybody what the feel is, what key it's in, and then maybe even provide a count off if I don't know what the hell you're doing. I mean, you know, that would be great. So those are the things that I find as a drummer I need from a guitar player.
You had a question?
Well, you mentioned before, talking about a 1-4-5, and he's talked about people say, well, you know the song, you know it's just a 1-4-5. A couple times I've been at jams and someone didn't know a song and they said, well, it's just a basic 1-4-5 in G.
Yeah.
And you get a look like you just started speaking Swahili.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
You know, when you're talking about things that you kind of need to be aware of, that's
Yeah, you need to be able to.
towards the top of the list.
Yeah, speaking the language is real important. And there's, you know, like Tom was saying about regional names for fields and stuff. I'm assuming no one's going to go to Chicago or Memphis or, you know, or Austin and go play anytime soon. But I would imagine certain things are called by names that we don't recognize, but they'll play like, you know, 3 notes of it and go, oh, you mean, you know, this thing, you know. But overall, the music of language, and especially blues, I think is pretty universal, but you have to know it first, and you have to be good at communicating yourself. I think that's super important.
Yeah, I mean, you know how many blues records you listen to, and you know, and there's a lot of, I don't want to say monotony, because there is form-wise and feel-wise. You know, a Jimmy Reed record, you only need one. You know, that pretty much all the songs sounded exactly the same. You know. But you know, listening a lot to a lot of blues does you good, you know, because you see things. Oh, I've heard that before. Oh yeah, I've heard that turn around before. You know, so you know your options on what to play, you know, kind of close in when you hear more and more of the music. You know, so you know that's the other thing. Buy lots of records, listen to lots of records. You know. And be more concerned with players than particular songs.
Yeah, you can take some songs and probably put together a 20-song playlist of different good versions of those tunes. You know, I had a friend of mine substituted for one of my blues classes some years ago, and he just spent the entire hour playing versions of Key to the Highway for the class. And there were some. You know, he gave me a copy of the CD the next day, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know half of these. And there were some pretty cool ideas in them. You know, I've always had a problem when people have learned all of their blues tune versions off of like modern rock records, or like Eric Clapton records from the '70s, or the Doors, or you know, I don't think it's as prevalent as it used to be, but I think in the '90s especially, a lot of the guys that I ran into on blues jams were, let's play, you know, Backdoor Man like the Doors did, and it's like, well, let's go back and learn the original versions, you know, get a little depth and a little history, and hear a lot of different people play it. The listening in any style of music is probably the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey Martin, what do you hate that guitar players do?
For me, it's time. The thing about everyone in here is we're all rhythm players, okay? And if our time is not absolutely solid, there's diminished.
Can you do me a favor?
There's
Can you just move the mouse over there?
There's a certain rhythmic impetus that happens when everybody has good time and everybody's playing at the same time. It sounds like a freight train coming at you. So for me, it's not so much what guitarists do necessarily. If their time is good and they have like a basic skill set, they don't get lost in the form. That to me is absolutely huge. The other thing is their feel. One of the reasons I like playing with these guys is when he plays a grinder, it sounds there's a certain quality to it that appeals to me. Okay, you can play a grinder, and it might not sound like a like his grinder or his grinder. It's a very different, there's just a subtlety there. And if a guitar player has that, then that's, for me, is really what makes it enjoyable for me, you know?
Yeah.
Also, with these guys, they do a lot of the call and response things that is basically inherent in the music. Like when Mark was talking about when he sings, after he sings a phrase, Tom would play something. It's basically a response to what the singer was doing, okay? And if you know that aesthetic, then that's like huge. That's absolutely huge. That way you're not stepping on each other's toes. Goes back to what Tyler was saying. If you have 15 guys up there, and some guys are just kind of noodling, kind of thinking about their solo, that is
That's the
a
worst.
huge
Mhm.
distraction.
Yeah.
It just
Okay.
doesn't sound good. It just sounds really bad.
And it's just bad etiquette. It's just very bad
Yeah.
etiquette. So for me, it's not so much the things that they do right; it's the things that they do wrong. That's just really
Yeah.
I can't get beyond.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those things I just mentioned are really, for me, as a bass player, really crucial.
Yeah.
And we're telling you this just because, not to like call you all here to denigrate guitar players, which would be ludicrous, but you know, like it's just that so many jams kind of
Evolve into that.
yeah, it becomes a lot of guys show up because they want to get their rocks off and they ignore the whole, well, this is music, and if this guy's soloing, I should be supportive of that just out of principle instead of, you know, like, oh yeah, well check this out, you know, it's just like this, it ends up being a real sort of a negative experience sometimes. So we like to have these things because we can kind of talk about tools that you can use to, at a jam or a gig, go and be a musical player and get called more. People will want to play with you.
Yeah, if you do that, man, you'll always be up there playing.
Your phone will
You
ring,
know,
yeah.
well, even that. But how many people are at the Orange County meetup down? Like 600. You know, how many people show up at the jams? And there's guys that sit there and never get a chance to play, and I know there's politics probably involved, but the more supportive of a player you are, probably the more chances to be able to play, I think.
Yeah. And if you sing, you're useful. You're not a guitar player. You're someone who can run a jam. Even if you can only sing one or two tunes, and those are the places, to me, that's a great laboratory to learn how to sing. Because, you're getting up and you're getting a chance to play with a full band. And, the thing with those jams is everybody's got a guitar. Not too many people can get up and sing. And for me, I'm very much about, I want to entertain. It's music, and you're there, and you're in a venue, you're in public, right? And that venue is, it's hosting a blues jam, whether it's the meetup group or it's any of the other places that you may go to play, and you don't want it to be something that's going to drive business out of the place, for one, and you want it so that, hopefully other players and musicians are going to enjoy what you're doing, and non-musicians are going to enjoy what you're doing because you're making music, and being able to sing adds a lot to what you do. I also notice that, a lot of guitar players, once they start singing, their guitar playing tends to improve too. The rhythm playing has to get more stable. Their lead playing becomes a little bit more melodically informed, as far as beginners go. So let's play. Why don't you guys do your grind? I'm not going to sing this time, though. I have a long night of singing Journey songs and all kinds of other garbage tonight ahead of me. So, no, not very much blues tonight. But unfortunately, I'm gonna sound like Darth Vader by about 3 this morning.
Play it down, right? Play.
Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Thank
Tom was being a guitar player.
Playing the right thing.
Huh?
Was I playing the right thing?
Yeah.
Let's try again. Let's do it.
One thing I might suggest, can you hand me your guitar without changing the volume knob? Yeah, just give me your instrument. Okay, so you guys heard about where he was playing. If I was playing this, I'd kind of dig in a little bit more, and there's going to be a little bit more punch and definition out of it. I might also, I didn't actually, without changing the volume, I'm using the bridge pickup, and it cuts a little bit, but I'll bring the volume down on the guitar. A lot of times people will play with the volume up and play real quiet, and it turns into kind of a drone, and you weren't doing quite that. But I'd rather have the guitar quieter and get more force and more, oomph. How much of the time would you say you have your guitar on 10 during a blues gig?
Oh, only when it's about me. No, very rarely. I tend to roll because, the type of blues I like, there wasn't, some of the songs don't even have bass players. It was 2 guitar players, so the second guitar, was supposed to kind of mimic the bass in some ways on, some of those Sonny Boy or Little Walter records, most of the time what you hear is a second guitar. So, there's something really cool about trying to capture that sound. So I really ride the tone knob on my playing. By backing it off, I lose a little projection, but it also is kind of like the poor man's distortion too, because I end up, boosting those mids and lows more. So. It's no distortion, it's just my amp, And so, it sounds funky and low down. Way different than if I crank it on 10 and keep my tone on 10. Has a kind of a different thing to it. But, playing the bottom part, as idiosyncratic and simple as it is probably one of the most fun things that I get to do playing, at a blues gig. They call it a grinder, and what happens, the next thing I ask is, well, what do you do? Oh, we're gonna do this little Walter thing. So I'm thinking, I'm gonna mute it. Or if they say, well, I'm gonna put like some Gatemouth Brown or something, I go, oh yeah, really open in the back. So, it doesn't sound like much of a change, but I think it sounds different enough.
It's huge.
It totally changes the whole vibe of a song.
It's a huge change. I mean, it's a subtle change here, but in terms of like the sound, it's a huge change, and that comes from like a lot of listening and a lot of playing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I do. I'm a geek. All I do is sit at home and listen to records. I don't know how my wife puts up with me. They get new records and I send them out. Oh, you gotta check this stuff out, man. This stuff's great. And my wife's going, I don't know if I could listen to another Little Walter record.
You can't expect to be a good blues guitar player if that's your aim without listening to a lot of that music.
Yeah, I get emotionally moved by listening to the music. I listen and go, oh man, I dig that. And there's some things I want to quote and I want to emulate. And it used to be that I used to learn like licks note for note, and there's certain solos and stuff that I learned note for note because it helps with phrasing, it helps. But I listen to a player and I see one thing he does, and generally, like most of us, I have a bag of licks I play, and I probably play 80% of the time. You probably have a bag when you're playing blues, That's a style.
Yeah.
That's a style. So you listen to a player and you go, man, I dig that guy's style. So you gotta dig out some things you like. So. I hear like, Lockwood playing a grinder. Sounds different than like, Robert Nighthawk or like Gatemouth, But I want to learn how to play all of them. So when I'm playing, some guys, I think I'd be doing this sort of grinder, and I go, yeah, I'm gonna lay it down like that, or. It all sounds really cool, so I'm rambling. Take over.
Cool. Anybody else want to come out and play? Anyone? Bueller? No. Okay. Well, we've talked about that. Some of the other feels that besides that one that would get called. There's the Bach shuffle.
Yeah, the Bach shuffle, man. That's probably the most popular one in the jam, don't you think?
Yeah.
I call it because I think it's probably the most approachable, and it probably has the most relevance for most of us. If we grew up listening to like Clapton, or you listen to some Otis Rush or Buddy Guy. Some of these guys are kind of more at the top of our listening playlist, and so the Bach shuffle is pretty standard. It's really a '60s groove. It's still a shuffle. The only difference is you don't have the 6th and the 7th. You have the 7th, but it's and that's a Bach shuffle, man. It makes it great to solo over because you can play it real pentatonically. But there's a couple. We'll talk about top and bottom. You want to play one?
Yeah. Well, I was going to also add that if you've got your Bach shuffle, then you've got kind of the pattern of notes you'd use for like a boogaloo or something like the Latin stuff. It's for me, I wasn't really aware of how much like versus. Go ahead and play a shuffle first. Let's play do it like a boogaloo. So it's almost like a 2-for-1 guitar part, really. You just have to understand that the Bach shuffle is actually a shuffled 8th note, and this Latin thing is more of a straight 8th note. 1 and 2 and 3 versus da 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 da. Boom da ba ba versus da 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 da.
It's the exact same amount of notes per bar too.
Yeah.
It's how you treat them.
Yeah, and there's in that packet I gave you guys, there should be examples of all this stuff too. That's the thing is that in there's a ton of materials, but everything we're talking about there'll be an example of that. Actually, let me. Do you need one? Oh, thank you guys. I'm gonna pass one right behind you too. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning that you could follow along in your program. So, but you've got those two guys that typically would play in 12-bar blues. With the 12-bar blues, things to be aware of, turnarounds. Be able to play some turnarounds. We're not big fans of everything having a like that kind of. I mean, it just gets kind of redundant after a while. But you should have a handful of vocabulary licks, that you can play that you can just drop in from time to time. And sometimes a lot of those turnaround licks can make intros. Also with the 12-bar blues, quick change where you're putting the 4 chord on the 2nd bar, that sort of thing. That's important to know, and that's also something someone would communicate to you. Hey, we're doing a grinder in E, and there's a quick change. If you went and asked someone on the street, they would think that it's a sandwich, and you gave them a $20 bill to get your sub sandwich. But, as far as, blues players go, we know exactly what that is. We know what the key is. We know what the feel is. We know that there's a variation in the normal form. All right. Out of the 12-bar blues stuff, is there anything else that's really essential?
Yeah, when you're playing turnarounds, you we talk about like, you know, one guy's playing the bottom, one guy's playing the top. Ideally, if you're playing like melodic things, the top part of the guitar, play your turnaround in that register. You know, because if I'm playing the top, you know, that's a great turnaround that stays out of the way of the guy playing the bottom versus the guy playing the, you know, So, you know, there's actually a really cool counterpoint. One guy plays one turnaround, and the other guy plays the other turnaround. Yeah, what do you want, Mark?
Can you explain the difference between the top and the bottom?
Yeah, we spent a lot of lessons talking about the top and the bottom, right? Well, you know, it's like a piano, right? You know, you the left hand plays like all these bass notes, and then the right hand plays, you know, plays these melody notes that are complementary to the left hand, but is almost independent. It's still very rhythmic, but you know, you have this lower register and this higher register, and really, all it is, you want to stay out of the way of the other guy, you know, frequency-wise. You know, you hear a guy going, oh, that sounds hip, and then, you know, I'm going to do the same thing. Well, that's redundant, you know. Oh, yeah, that's original. Then you get 3 guitar players doing all of that.
It's like Big Bottom.
Yeah.
It's like very Spinal Tap.
Or vice versa, you get 3, this is probably more likely, you get 3 guitar players, and they're all noodling, right? Yeah. That sounds like, man, I'm thinking big 4-letter words right there. That don't sound good. But if we like, you know, stay out of each other's way, like frequency wise, man, it opens things up. And what's really cool is there's, even though Mark said that when you're playing that bottom, you know, you're staying very steady and consistent. You still have some play, 'cause I can go. And it's great, and he put the top, and he can do anything. Go, let's just play a little bit.
All right.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, it's almost like I got my little guitar solo, I got my thing going on, he's got his thing going on, and it sounds good collaboratively together. And that's what's, man, that's just magic, you know.
Yeah.
What was I started with? I rambled on again. Oh, I talked about
Bottom.
turnarounds, you know, so pick your parts, left and, you know, left hand, bottom, right hand, top. Does that answer? What are we going to do now?
I don't know. There's cookies in the lobby. No. Cookies. All right, so that's your 12-bar blues. Probably the next most common progression, in my experience, is the 8-bar blues, and then that's going to be in that packet there. 8-bar blues, generally, to me, it seems like there's a lot more variation in it, and then the 2 major ones are like the Key to the Highway, or the It Hurts Me Too, like the. Would you say that's?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There's one other one I was thinking of, and I can't remember what it is right now. But most of the time, it's like one of those 2 tunes. And there's not. I mean, how many tunes can you name off the top of your head that are 8-bar blues?
Not many, and I don't play very many.
And most of them are probably Junior Wells tunes.
Yeah. I mean, they're out there. I mean, it's important to know because, you know, if it's called, you know, you're expected to play it. But you know, I think I went through my whole gig last night and didn't play a 8-bar blues. But next time out, I just might. So it's important at least be able to play, you know, an 8-bar blues with some authority.
Yeah. So let's do Hurts Me Too, just a little. We'll see if I remember the words. I'm still in journey mode from last night. We'll start at the top of the form. No No, we'll just start on the top. Yeah.
You say you hurt, about to lose your mind. The man you love, he hurts you all the time. When things go wrong, so wrong with you, it hurts me too. I'll take one. He loves another woman, and you love him. And I love you, and you stick to him like glue when things go wrong. So wrong with you, that hurts me too. It's the abridged version. But you know what? One thing that's kind of funny is that in the fourth measure of that, or the second bar of the four chord, Tom in his line implied that the chord was a minor instead of a dominant chord, so it was a D minor chord. And we heard that and went, oh, cool, so we're going to do that. Yeah, and then I ended up doing it my solo, and then when we went back to the verse under the singing, we went more straightforward. But that's kind of an example of things that like can happen magically if you're well, not magic, I mean, but you know, if you're playing collaboratively. Now one other thing is how loud is it in here right now? Now, to me, if we were playing in a bar, it wouldn't be a whole lot louder. There'd be times when it would get a lot louder if we were really going for something, but this would actually be a great baseline volume for this. Right? It's not that we're playing in a bigger room so we need to play louder, and we're playing in a smaller room so we need to play at this level all the way through. It's the matter that this is actually a comfortable thing. You know, he's playing the drums with good intensity, but he's not killing it. You know, we're actually able to kind of play where our amplifiers sound pretty good for this, except my amp's kind of a little bit too loud. But the volume thing is real important, because I like to get loud when it's meaningful, you know, and just beat the living crap out of something volume-wise, you know. But if you're up there all the time, or if you just plug into a 50-watt amp and and put it on 8 and go, there's my tone, that's where I need to, you're kind of killing the music. To me, the music breathes when you play dynamically, and when you start off here with something like this, then you've got places to go and you got places to go back to, and to me, it's more interesting to the listener. And it's easier to play when things are loud all the time. Like my this weekend I'm doing rock gigs, so I'm playing cover band in a bar, and it's full PA. The drums are mic'd. People are, we're playing. We played a Beastie Boys song. It's just just all kinds of, and it gets hard to be musical in that setting because you're just like all the time, and that's what it feels like inside. Singing something, but I'm just like, I can't, But here, this is nice. You know, it's very comfortable. It's very easy to be creative because we're here. And then if we were digging into something more, we could, but it wouldn't be like we're there so long that you guys are desensitized to it. You know what I mean? The volume thing is really a big deal. And if you notice the beginning, like after Tom's solo, when it came back in, I didn't even start playing guitar until about halfway through the verse. You know, sometimes the best thing you can play is nothing. So that way when you come back in, you're adding something as opposed to just, you know. And so, you know, sometimes the mix at a jam, it more resembles a clogged toilet than music. You know, there's just so much stuff going on. It's just, you know, but, you know, especially if there's more than two guitar players, you know, if I'm singing, I'll play very little guitar. If I'm not singing even, I'll take one for the team and play a very minor part or whatever. But the whole, like, you know, like it's like Woodstock and everyone's up there, you know, it's not really fun to play with, not fun to listen to, you know. So it's, you know, you guys didn't come here so I could tell you don't play, but I mean, that's sometimes subtracting is more musical than adding.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, you know, I had to host some jams, and you know, I'm not really good at playing really loud. You know, I have to, you know, but you know, I can't make things happen. So I'm at these jams, and when it's really loud, it's hard to make things work for you. So the first instinct is, well, screw that guy. I'm gonna crank this up more, you know. But you know, in the back of my head, it's like, well, I'm not serving the music by cranking it up. So I'll stand my ground, stay where I'm gonna be at, and generally, the music projects a lot further out there than what you perceive on stage. I think, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, you play through a tiny amp. I can't hear myself. Man, it blows by your feet, and it hits the audience harder than you think it would, you know. So, I don't know what's going with that.
Mm. But everyone kind of has to be on the same page, though, because if you got a drummer who's playing too loud, or the other guitar player is just up there like being Pete Townsend, just like live at Leeds, then, you know, it's there's no way you can play around that. It's a mess no matter what you do, you know. But if everyone's kind of sensitive to the dynamics, the music can be much more interesting to listen to and to play, I think. You know.
Yeah.
But that's a hard concept. You know, the first time you get up at a jam and you're trying to just remember, you know, the feel and the licks, and if it's a tune and the lyrics, and you know, there's so many things to internalize for music. You know, and as an adult, when you're learning this stuff, it's even harder because you're just used to learning things at work. Like, okay, someone showed me how to use this tool, and I'm going to use it. You know, and the reality is music. You know, there's an intellectual component to it, there's a creative component to it, and there's a physical component to it. And to me, the physical part of it ends up being the biggest bottleneck. You know, because it takes a lot of time and repetition to get this stuff out of the guitar. And you need to have it where it's muscle memory. If you're thinking while you're playing, by the time you play what you thought of, it's too late. The music's already passed you by. You know, so to me, it's better to take a small idea or a simple idea and get it to the point where you can kind of do it in your sleep. You know, and that way when you get up to play, you know, it's easy. You can actually play the music as opposed to just thinking about what you're trying to do, you know. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes, no?
We covered it all.
Cover it all. That's the blues, 1 hour. You've just gotten over 100 years worth of music history.
So I guess to be a really versatile player, you have to learn both the top and the bottom part.
Yeah, you should.
Maybe start up at the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, to me, that's almost like when rock players say, well, he's just a rhythm guitar player and he's a lead guitar player. That means that there's two musicians who don't really know their instrument. You know, you should be able to play everything. You may not enjoy playing solos or spend a lot of time on, you know, but you should know enough that you can do a little bit of that. You should know enough that you can play rhythm guitar. The rhythm guitar stuff or like the bottom parts and stuff like this, that's the most important thing.
That happens a lot. Like, I do a lot of church gigs, and there's always like, and this isn't like a knock on church bands, but I'm gonna say.
I love how every point we make is, this isn't us really being knocking people, but it's true.
I'm not gonna they're designated like, okay, Jim and Joe are rhythm guitar players, and they'll play like all these rhythm parts, and then there's one dude who can only play lead over everything, and he's just kind of like, and everyone's like holding down this rhythm part, and it's like you should really be able to do both. I mean, that makes no sense to me. It wouldn't work on this instrument or any other really. I mean,
But people do.
yeah,
Yeah.
like lead drums. But yeah, I mean that'd be like a drummer saying I can only do drum solos, but I can't hold down a groove for an entire song or something. So I mean, it's like that doesn't make sense to me as an outsider looking in. That a guitar player, and I hear that from my friends too sometimes. They'll say, like, oh, so and so can only play lead, or so and so's just a rhythm player. And it's like, okay, well, you need to study a little bit more then. I mean,
Yeah, it's all music,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
at the end of the day. I had a thought and it just evaporated. That's how my day's going.
Cookies.
Cookies.
That's probably what it was.
No, it had to do with exactly that too. Oh, man. No, not cookies. Blues cookies. I'm sorry. I just completely lost my train of thought. Tyler's fault. So.
We'll try to get these guys to try to play some different grooves. Or?
Yeah, do you guys want to play? Everyone's got a guitar. Anybody want to get up and make some music? Yes, no?
You guys want to go to the jam? This is step one. Here.
Yeah. If not, that's okay. Well, actually, going back to his point, the very first clinic that I did, I did one by myself, and one gentleman got up. Actually, I think Mark was there, and I was trying to teach grooves. We're doing different grooves, and the guy kept soloing, and I'm like, well, we're not working on lead playing. We're working on a box shuffle right now. It was like the very first thing. And he turns to me and goes, well, I just don't play chords. I don't do that.
I never heard a guitar player say that before.
Yeah.
I never heard a guitar player say I don't play chords.
I have a witness for this. But it completely baffled me that, like, how do you not know any chords? Yeah, or understand that, guitar is a rhythm section instrument. That's the most important job that a guitar does. Everyone always goes, rhythm section, it's these guys. And honestly, we're part of this team 95% of the time. On most gigs I play, I love when I get to take a guitar solo, but that's not what the job is. The job is to provide rhythm guitar. We provide harmony, we provide a feel, and all of that has to happen and make sense within the context of what these guys are doing. That's job number one for us. The soloing part's kind of like dessert. And that guy was just like living on ice cream sundaes all the time. No veggies. So.
Yeah, it's like ordering a sundae and getting a bowl of cherries.
Just a bowl of
Cherries.
No sprinkles.
No ice cream.
No ice cream.
You order a sundae, you get cherries.
So, all right. If nobody has any questions, I guess we'll conclude.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Yeah. Oh, go for it.
What do you guys think about throwing in different chords in there instead of a straight 4-chord and major, playing ninth or something?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
Because I've started fooling around doing some of that stuff, and to me it adds something to it. It doesn't. It's not the same, 1/4 and a 7 or 5/7, and
Yeah.
you play a ninth on the 4-chord or something, or even on the 5-chord.
Yeah, chord voicings are really important. For blues, a lot of everything I do is just parts of chords, just partials, little pieces of chords.
Yeah.
I can get away with playing a major 6 and a ninth chord for 85% of everything I do. There's one thing that I learned a long time ago, one of the first things, and we talk about in the class here, is just playing rhythm. Just go. Man, it works for a shuffle, it works for a swing, it works for everything. If you can't keep time or anything, but you can do that, you'll get through every song just fine. But you look at the chord I'm playing, I'm just playing just a major 6. Add a 7. never play a major seventh in a song. Dominant seventh's cool. Major seventh, never do that, man. That don't sound like the blues. But you know, like a ninth chord always it will work. Kind of works as a major chord sometimes, at least in this position right here. Hey, let's play a box real quick, and watch this. This will get you through everything. This is a good example of a top part. If some guy's doing this, because every guitar player knows how to do, or the reverse box, right? Forward box, backwards box. But the top part, this is the top part. Check it out.
1, 2, 3.
Most guitar players have a hard time playing swing. I mean, we grew up in the rock and roll generation, you know. It's not like we listen to Lawrence Welk every Sunday morning, or if we did, we have bad memories of doing so.
This can be with a 6th and 9th also?
Yeah. Catch-all. You do that, you're good.
I've never thought about the 6th. That's just...
Major 6th chord, yeah. It's better than playing. You notice the chords too, I'm playing just a little part of the chord. I'm playing the full thing, but I'm not doing this. It's too big, too dense, man, because then you're getting in that left hand. Some that guy's playing the bottom part, and then you're playing his notes. You gotta stay out of his way. So little pieces.
Yeah. One thought that just occurred to me is on endings. Typically, the drummer's the person that's going to be buttoning the whole thing up. You know, so don't be afraid to watch the drummer on endings. Like turn, you know, instead of like, you know, just kind of head down doing your own thing. Lost my mic. You know, actually spend some time, like just turn around and look at him. I'm kind of like, because I'm singing, I'm usually kind of, you know, doing this, or, you know, I like corner my eye, or, you know. But that's, you know, that's one time where it's not such a bad thing to not face the audience, because what's the last thing the audience takes with them out of the room? It's your screwed up ending, because nobody was paying attention to each other, and it just sounded like a band falling down a flight of stairs, right? But if you're all paying attention to each other, you know, and especially if you're, you know, if everyone's paying attention to him, you know, because he's the person that's probably gonna, you know, button it up or end it or something like that, you know, then it'll be tight.
I've done that a lot of times on jams when I can tell that nobody knows how to end the tune, and if I can just get everyone to look at me, I'll just end it. You know,
Kill it.
I have all the control.
Bust a cap in.
When I stop playing, the song is over. I'd love to see them like continue on, but I mean, no. So it's like it won't happen.
I'm taking my ball and going home.
Right, so yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, you're not being a jerk about it, but it's like, so at blues jams, I mean, that usually, if guys aren't paying attention, it usually always ends up anywhere.
It can get away from you very
Yeah.
easily.
So I mean, just be aware of what's going on at the end of the forms and the end of if you think the tune's wrapping up, kind of look at the drummer, and if you're the savvy drummer, he'll know exactly what's going on. You know?
I'm done. I'm out of here.
The song ends.
So, cool. All right. Anything else?
No one wants to play?
Dude, man, all these
Last
guitars.
chance.
You got a guitar.
Hmm.
You got a band.
Mark's like my cheerleader over here.
You don't get to play with the drummer now. You go home and you're not playing.
I know. It's like if you got picked to pet Shamu when you were a kid at SeaWorld, and you didn't decide to pet Shamu for the rest of your life.
I don't know about that.
Cool. Cool. Just a couple things. We do these clinics. This room is basically here because we teach a lot of classes. We do like blues classes, Tom currently teaches like an intro to blues kind of thing. He teaches an acoustic blues, like not a country blues, a rockabilly class. I end up teaching more of the rock and roll end of things. We have a jazz combo that we're kind of getting off the ground for adults on Tuesday nights. We also do a lot of Skype lessons and classes, and we've got a website. I think the web it's basically my name, markweenguitarlessons.com. But there's a ton of free video lessons on there you guys can use. There's there's a musicians forum. What am I missing?
We have all sorts of.
Yeah, there's all kinds of resources. Obviously we're in business, but there's a lot of stuff that you guys can utilize that's free on those sites that I think would be helpful where you're at. There's a lot of like I generally do podcasts once a week, and we do like a lick of the week, and I've done everything, from Hollywood Fats to Hendrix or whatever. But and Tom occasionally does them. He'll kind of take over for me occasionally. There's music theory stuff. There's stylistic stuff. There's a lot of resources. So anyway, so that might be something to kind of check out. That's pretty much it. We do private lessons, all that other happy stuff. So you know where to find us. Thanks, guys.
I have a record player, so you take lessons with me. We can listen to old records.
Yeah, Tom is the only teacher in a music school in Orange County that actually has a real record player.
What's up, man?